Good morning, students. Here, dear ma'am from SKM Public School. Students, today I am going to teach you chapter number 7, History, Tribes, Nomads and Settled Communities. In my first video, this previous video, part 1 of chapter number 7, History, I have taught you about tribal people, Banjaras, how nomads and mobile people lived, and new caste and hierarchies. Today, we are going to learn changing society, new caste and hierarchies. Today you are going to learn about here Gonds and Ahoms. So in the previous video I have taught you about some tribes. Bhils. The Bhils are considered as the third largest and most widely distributed tribal groups in India. The name Bhi was probably derived from the word that is Vilu or Bilu, which is most Dravidian languages is the word for bow. The bow has long been a characteristic weapon of the Bhil because the tribemen always carry their bows and arrows with them. The Bhil tribes inhabit some of the most remote and inaccessible areas of India. There are two divisions of Bhils, the central or pure Bhils and the eastern or Rajput Bhils. The central Bhils live in the mountain regions in the states of Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat and Rajasthan. They are known as the connecting link between the Gujaratis and the Rajasthanis and are one of the largest tribal communities of India. They speak Bhil. Here they speak Bhili, which is an Indo-Aryan language. They speak Bhili. So this is in the right hand side picture of Bhil people, Bhil tribe people. Then it is about Santhals tribe. A step forward in our Indian tribal tour takes us to Santhal tribe with a population of more than 49,000. Santhal tribes are the third largest tribes in India belonging to pre-Aryan period. These tribes of India are found in regions of West Bengal, Bihar, Odisha and Jharkhand. Many call them as the tribes at extreme. A visit to their place will surely get your money's worth. Santhal tribes of India take pride in their past. Historically, these Indian tribes were at front and against Britishers and their heroics against Lord Cornwallis are well known. Many famous personalities such as Sidhu and Baba Tika Majhi were part of these enthusiastic tribes of India. So here this is a picture of Santhal tribe. Then about Cheros tribe. This is picture of Cheros tribe people. The Cheros are scheduled caste found in the states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. In North India, the community claims to have originally been here Chandravanshi Rajput. Other members of the tribe claim to be Nagvanshi. The Chero are essentially one of many tribal communities such as the Bihar and Kol and inhabit the southeastern corner of Uttar Pradesh. They were the traditional rulers of North Bihar until they were disposed by the Rajputs. They are now found in territory extending from Allahabad in the west and Muzaffarpur in the east. The Chero have two subdivisions, the Mahato and Chaudhary. Here this is a picture of Chero's tribe. Now, about changing society, new caste and hierarchies. As the economy and the needs of society grew, people with new skills were required. Smaller castes or jatis emerged within varnas. For example, new caste appeared amongst the Brahmanas On the other hand, many tribes and social groups were taken into caste-based society and given the status of jatis. Specialized artisans, smiths, carpenters, and masons were also recognized as separate jatis by the Brahmanas. Jatis rather than Varna became the basis for organizing society. So, deliberations on jati. Here, a 12th century inscription from Yukondan Udaya in Tiruchirappalli Taluka in present day Tamil Nadu describes the deliberations in a Sabha, chapter 2 of Brahmanas. They deliberated on the status of a group known as Rathakaras, literary chariot makers. They laid down their occupations, which were to include architecture, building coaches and carriers, erecting gateways for temples with images in them, preparing wooden equipment used to perform sacrifices, building mandapas, making jewels for the king. Among the Kshatriyas, new Rajput clans became powerful by the 11th and 12th centuries. They belonged to different lineages such as Hunas, Chandelas, Chalukyas and others. Some of these too had been tribes earlier. Many of these clans came to be regarded as Rajputs. They gradually replaced the older rulers, especially in agricultural areas. Here, a developed society was emerging and rulers used their wealth to create powerful states. The rise of Rajput clans to the position of rulers set an example for the tribal people to follow. Gradually, with the support of the Brahmanas, many tribes became part of the caste system, but only the leading tribal families could join the ruling class. A large majority joined the lower jatis of caste society. On the other hand, many dominant tribes of Punjab, Sindh and the northwest frontier had adopted Islam quite early. They continued to reject the caste system, the unequal social order prescribed by Orthodox Hinduism was not widely accepted in these areas. The emergence of states is closely related to social change amongst tribal people. Two examples of this important part of our history are here the Gonds and the Ahoms. So let's have a closer look about Gonds. Gonds were influenced by Rajputs in order to gain power and recognition. They had marriage alliances with Rajputs. Gonds were not migrants. Gond state was not dependent upon the forced labor. Gonds did not introduce the new methods of rice cultivation. Gond society was further divided into unequal social classes. Gond society was not as developed as Ahoms. Gonds practiced shifting cultivation. So the Gonds lived in a vast forested region called Gondwana or country inhabited by Gonds. They practiced shifting cultivation. The large Gond tribe was further divided into many smaller clans. Each clan had its own Raja or Rai. About the time that the power of the Delhi Sultans was declining, a few large Gond kingdoms were beginning to dominate the smaller Gond chiefs. The Akbarnama, a history of Akbar's reign, mentions the Gond kingdom of Gada Katanga that had 70,000 villages. The administrative system of these kingdoms was becoming centralized. The kingdom was divided into Gads. Each Gad was controlled by a particular Gond clan. This was further divided into units of 84 villages called Chaurasi. हिंदी में 84 बोलते हैं ना, so means 84 villages called Chaurasi. The Chaurasi was subdivided into Barhots, which were made up of 12 villages each. So the emergence of large states changed the nature of Gond society. They are basically equal society gradually got divided into unequal social classes. Brahmanas received land grants from the Gond Rajas and became more influential. The Gond chiefs not wished to be recognized as Rajputs. So Amandas, the Gond Raja of Gadkatanga, assumed the title of Sangram Shah. His son Dalpat married Princess Durgavati, the daughter of Salbahan, the Chandel Rajput Raja of Mahoba. Dalpat, however, died early. Rani Durgavati was very capable and starting ruling on behalf of her 5-year-old son, Bir Narayan. Under her, the kingdom became even more extensive. In 1565, the Mughal forces under Asaf Khan attacked Gadkatanga. A strong resistance was put up by Rani Durgavati. She was defeated and preferred to die rather than surrender. Her son too died fighting soon after. Gadkatanga was a rich state. It earned much wealth by trapping and exporting wild elephants to other kingdoms. When the Mughals defeated the Gonds, they captured a huge booty of precious coins and elephants. They annexed होता है अधिकार करना part of the kingdom and granted the rest to Chandra Shah, an uncle of Veer Narayan. Despite the fall of Gadkatanga, the Gond kingdom survived for some time. However, they became much weaker and later struggled unsuccessfully against the stronger Bundelas and Marathas. So here at page number 99 in NCERT book, there is one of the question here. Discuss why the Mughals were interested in the land of the Gonds. So why Mughals were interested? For that we can say कि the territory of Gonds was in central part of the subcontinent. Mughals ruled over the northern part. They wished to expand their control over the southern kingdoms of the subcontinent. In order to do that, they first had to take control in the central part of the subcontinent, which was ruled by Gonds. Therefore, Mughals were interested in the land of the Gonds. So this is the reason why Mughals were interested in the land of the Gonds. So what we have learnt about Gond tribe? They lived in a vast forested region called Gondwana. They practiced shifting cultivation. The Akbarnama, a history of Akbar's reign, mentions the Gond kingdoms of Gadkatanga that had 70,000 villages. The administrative system of this kingdom was becoming centralized. The emergence of large states changed the nature of Gond society. Certain Gond chiefs now wish to be recognized as Rajputs. So now about Ahoms, the Ahoms. So about the Ahom live in India and are descendants of Thai people who came to live in the Brahmaputra valley in the early 13th century. They were in power for about 600 years. Most live in Assam and speak Assamese. Some live in the Lohit district of Arunachal Pradesh. So Ahoms expanded their rule by waging war against kingdoms of Chutias and Koch Hajo. They did not have marriage alliances. Ahoms were migrants of Brahmaputra valley from present-day Myanmar. The Ahom state was dependent upon the forced labor. Ahoms introduced the new methods of rice cultivation. And under Ahom king Sib Singh, Hinduism became a predominant religion. Ahom society was more developed. Okay. So the Ahom migrated to the Brahmaputra valley from present-day Myanmar in the 13th century. They created a new state by suppressing the older political system of the Bhuyans landlords. Bhuyans means landlords. During the 16th century, they annexed the kingdoms of the Chutias in 1523 and the Koch Hajo in 1581 and subjugated many other tribes. The Ahoms built a large state, and for this they used firearms as early as the 1530s. By the 1660s, they could even make high quality gunpowder and cannons also. However, the Ahoms faced many invasions from the southwest. In 1662, the Mughals under Mir Jumla attacked the Ahom kingdom. Despite their brave defense, the Ahoms were defeated, but direct Mughal control over the region could not last long. The Ahom state depended upon forced labor. Those forced to work for the state were called Paiks. Paiks, P-A-I-K-S. So here Paiks means those people who were forced to work for the state, those were called Paiks. And in this chapter there were also one word clan. I have described that also. A clan is a group of families or households claiming descent from a common ancestor. Tribal organization is often based on kinship or clan loyalties. Then I have told you about nomads and itinerant groups. Nomads are wandering people. Many of them are pastoralists who roam from one pasture to another with their flocks and herds. Similarly, itinerant groups such as craftsperson, peddlers and entertainers travel from place to place practicing their different occupation. Both nomads and itinerant groups often visit the same places every year. And about shifting cultivation, trees and bushes in a forest area are first cut and burnt. The crop is sown in the ashes. When the land loses its fertility, another plot of land is cleared and planted in the same way. Okay, so this is about Ahoms. Okay, Ahom. Okay, you can read this also about Ahom people. You can read chapter number 7. This is a picture of Ahom people. So this is a presentation presented by Neelam Jain. Students, stay alert, stay healthy, mask yourself, take proper care. Thank you. Have a
Bye-bye.
nice day. Bye-bye. JK ma'am is also saying bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Learn it. Write it properly.
Okay. Chapter number 7 you will read also. Thank you, students. Thank you.